everybody, and welcome again to another edition of the Modern Farming Podcast, where we are cultivating agricultural excellence through education every day.
We're your hosts, Chris and Tara, and together we're growing knowledge about the world that feeds us. And today we have Kevin O'Gorman, who is the K-5 Science and Horticultural Specialist teacher. And I've met Kevin, and I think this is going to be a wonderful interview. Kevin, tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, hi. Again, I'm Kevin O'Gorman. I work here at Laurel Nokomis. It's a school in Sarasota County, Florida. It's a K-8 school, so it's unique in our county. And I'm the specialist horticulture teacher on rotation. Not every school has that special. We're unique in that. So since I am here at this school, I get to teach horticulture and agriculture directly to the kids. So I've got my own giant garden classroom. I get to work outside with them and teach them everything about nature and do science through that lens of a horticulture class.
Excellent. You've been doing this for quite a while. What inspired you to bring gardening into the classroom to these young students?
Well, it actually didn't even start here. It started at Woodland Middle, where I originally taught middle school science. I got to work with the University of Florida, the IFAS Extension, and they do a garden program where they bring and they support a small amount to gardening in the school, and they have a biology teacher there. And being the life science teacher, I wanted to have that little bit of spark because I wanted to have them be able to go outside and do some experiments with gardening and work outdoors. And when I did that, I wanted to bring it with me wherever I went. And I decided I wanted to go and get it even further back in time. I wanted to get the kids before they got to me in middle school, so they had that prior knowledge before they got to my level. So I brought that with me. I looked for this school. I had actually been here as a substitute custodian when I was originally working with the school board about 20 years ago before I finished my teaching certification. And I met this wonderful woman here, Claire Herzog, who was the teacher at horticulture science then at the time, who I've replaced. And she was absolutely phenomenal what she did with the kids, and it just really inspired me to bring that back. And then I worked with my first year teaching. I worked with David Gwatney at McIntosh Middle School, and he runs a middle school garden program. So he was more further inspiration. So I brought all that here with me, and I wanted to just make sure I had a really unique experience for the kids, and I was able to bring that experience, give them something that they want to do, make them excited about nature, and just get them into science through this program. So that just kind of inspired me to keep bringing it along.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, reviewing some of my notes here, I'd like to know what it means when you say hands in dirt science. What does that mean? Okay,
so hands in dirt and science literally means I grab the coconut coir here. It's right in front of me while I'm sitting here at my outdoor classroom. I put that dirt and soil into, and I immediately get those kids out here and in it. They are touching it in my classroom. Like, for example, yesterday, we're at the harvest time for my Japanese sweet potatoes. So my Japanese sweet potatoes are starting to get ready for harvest. So the kids are like, Mr. O, can we pick potatoes today? I'm like, sure, of course you can. They're ready to go. So they dug up about 5 pounds of Japanese sweet potatoes out of the dirt. So when I say hands-on, I am the most literal definition you can possibly be. You can hear some of my kids shouting behind me there. They're walking by during lunch. So that's the other thing that's kind of inspiring and keeping me going too, along with that. They've got those hands in the dirt, so now they're loving this classroom, and they can't wait to say hi as they're walking by. And they even know they're breaking the rules, and they don't mind.
So the Japanese sweet potato, is that the purple one?
Yes, it's a reddish purple color. Some people call it purple, some people call it red. We actually started having a conversation about that with some of my class yesterday and today. Since it's Halloween, earlier I was dressed up as sriracha sauce for my 4th and 5th grade class, and I was talking about how, Louisiana and Le Petit Baton Rouge, that's, it's red. And in agriculture, they had a little red baton. That's where the name comes from. They used to do chili peppers with sriracha. So, we have conversations about that. Like anything you can imagine. We talk English, we talk history, science. It's just such a fun place to be because everything relates to where I am.
So cool. Yeah.
And for me, being able to do that, I can take all my specialties too. I've got teaching abilities in every subject.
Awesome. And it does. It always comes back to science, and it comes back to farming and food. Sounds like you've got that all figured out.
Uh-huh.
So growing up, did you have this connection, kind of to nature and agriculture as a young person yourself?
Yeah, I did, and that's kind of one of the things that made me want to share it too. My grandmother, June Gentile, she was my favorite grandmother. I know you're not supposed to have one, but she was, and I loved going over her house because she had her own garden outside, and she'd always go out and she'd be working in it, or she'd take her leftover scraps like her grapefruit and her apple peels and potato peels, whatever organic material she'd had from vegetables in the kitchen. She'd bring it outside and she'd plant it in the rows right next to the vegetables. I'd help her dig it and put it in. And then next to that, my grandfather, he had a grapevine and a little mini vineyard in his backyard. Now, it wasn't probably any bigger than my half to a quarter-acre garden here, and it was just enough to grow enough to make some grapes for the year, and we'd have enough grape to make grape juice. So he'd make grape juice with grandma, and they'd make a little bit of wine, but that spirit and inspiration, that just kind of inspired me, and I went from there.
Cool.
Then also, I used to grow my own garden with my mom as well. I used to do cucumbers. My aunt would have pickles, and she would make pickles out of the cucumbers I grew for the year. And my mom also worked at an apple orchard, so we always had apples. I'd go see that. I'd pick them off the trees. We used to do you-pick strawberries and blueberries and everything when I was a kid. So I've had lots of those different various experiences throughout the year of my life.
So with the kids, what's one of the biggest impacts you think that they get from your class from being outside with their hands in the dirt?
They don't have to touch a paper and pencil. They can in my class, but that's what they do all day. And they also use technology all day long. We're so high tech and into PowerPoint, Zooms, videos, all those other different kinds of media. I don't want this to become a forgotten form. There's always tactile kids. If we look at Bloom's taxonomy, there's always, a tactile kid, there's an auditory kid, and there's a visual kid. And some of them are various combinations of those learning styles. And the tactile kids don't get hit anywheres, really, other than my class, or if you have a specific science experiment. That's when we do the most hands-on. And specialists is very hands-on throughout. Like we've got our art class, we've got our PE. So that's the time where I really feel I'm actually glad I don't have computers in the classroom, because I want them to get away from for a little bit, get back in connection with nature, because sometimes they go from the little boxes that are our classroom to an apartment complex box at home, and they never touch a green thing. So if there's no green thing in their life, how can they appreciate and respect it and not want to care if it's destroyed? So, I want them to have that touch with nature. They can see it rather than just read it in a book. I'd rather they do it.
We talk about that a lot, whether it's with kids or adults, people in general, not being exposed to agriculture, growing outdoors. Do you see kids, firsthand, kind of come out of their shell or snap into this thing that they would never really otherwise experience? Do you see that, and how does that make you feel?
Yes, it makes me feel good, especially when I've got a couple good examples. My daughter is actually one of them too, because my daughter is an in-home, stay on their technology, play on her phone, and live in her room kind of kid most of the time. But I know that she needs to get out there, so I force her to get out here. And she's made her own little garden over here. She made a mini succulent garden with aloe vera and put rocks in it. And she was having an absolute blast. So I know she wouldn't do that if she wasn't here with me. I also know I've got a lot of ESOL students that their culture is to do this. One of my favorite students, he was a Russian-Ukrainian student, and his name was Lev, and he had an older brother, Tihan. And they would come every morning because in Russia, it's a cultural thing to have a community garden. And they would go to that normally where they were from in their homeland, and they immigrated here. Their father became a U.S. citizen and, went through the whole process. And to have that and see him, he would come here every morning because he missed it so much. He took care of one entire garden bed. And he's like, Mr. O, can I plant this? Can I come do this? I'm like, yeah, heck yeah. it reaches out to those different communities, helps them connect with us, helps them become part of our agricultural system, part of the U.S., part of our culture here at school in Florida. And it's just a great way to touch those kids that don't have a great language skill, but they've got a memory of a garden somewhere, and they have that skill already. And believe it or not, they could teach the kids by showing, even rather than doing, like, they could already transplant plants, and they could do cuttings and seed sowing. And I had one of them even fixing irrigation for me, and he's only in 3rd grade. I know, now granted, he's a gifted student that moved on to our Pineview school, but still he was able to do that without being able to speak to me in English very well.
Wow.
So
That's awesome.
it's
Amazing.
just powerful things that you see, and there's more of those experiences I could probably pull out of my hat, but that's just a couple.
Well, I'm kind of interested in how you do it with your day-to-day. How do you bring that gardening into your day-to-day lessons and into the science that you're teaching?
How do I do it with my day-to-day? Well, I start with bug of the week. Every single day, I have basically a 7-day rotation. So for 7 days, I teach one bug that's in the garden. That's a pest. And I talk about that pest. Like this week is we were doing leaf miner last week, and this week is the leaf miner review. So I'm reviewing leaf miners, and I'm finishing that up today. Today's the last day of that. That's a bug that's going to affect all my vegetable plants, and it's also going to affect my new citrus trees that Green Genes are bringing. There's a psyllid that's a citrus leaf miner. So I've been teaching about that, saying, hey, look, we're going to have to watch out for this. This is something that I don't want on our trees. We got to look at and we got to find right away. I tell them, okay, this is how we get rid of it. We can use neem oil. I said we can use beneficial bugs. So what bugs are we going to use? And I talked to my past for 5 weeks about the green lacewing being Mr. O's favorite bug because it's a generic predator. It eats things at all life stages. It gets rid of aphids, which are like the #1 bane of the garden. That's my first bug of the week. So that's kind of like my daily starter for them. I get them hooked in with some cool, gross bug or doing something with that. And then I go out to the garden, we find it. Most of the bugs, I picked the top 25 garden bugs for Florida that are the most prevalent. And I go out and I find them. And my garden is so full of them now because we planted an awesome cover crop for those citrus trees. And it was so amazing to see the amount of insect life that just popped up within 3 weeks. I had assassin bugs that are out there. I had ladybugs going crazy. I had lacewings. I had aphids all over the bean plants. It's just neat to see the whole ecosystem. And then they got to see that as that grow. We talked for 3 or 4 weeks about it. They come out, they see that, they get to see it. So it's first like 5-10 minutes at most in the classroom. I bring them out here, they see the stuff, and then I have them working on regular tasks. I assign them into groups by color coordination from tables inside. So I've got an orange table, red, orange, yellow, blue, green. I teach them Roy G. Biv. So I'm teaching art. I'm teaching numbers because their color matches the team number outside. So once they go from color on the table to the team number, I say, hey, orange team. And they look at me, oh, what color am I? They look down, oh, I'm the orange team. I'm #1. So they have to coordinate the numbers with the colors. It teaches them that. And then I say, all right, orange team, who's your team leader today? And they already have one assigned for me. The team leader goes and I say, all right, what do you want to do today? And I give them 2 or 3 choices. I say, do you want to water today? Do you want to weed today? Or do you want Mr. O's special project? And I don't tell them what it is all the time. Sometimes it's weeding in a special area in a garden with a certain tool. And I go and I teach them something. And I try and rotate that group around if I can. I'll try and switch the groups up and I'll take 2 or 3 of the teams. So I'll get 2 or 3 of them on that lesson. And next week, I'll try and share that. And I base it on just whatever I need in the garden. I'm kind of really rebuilding it. The garden was in serious disrepair when I started 4 years ago. It was basically a rotted out shell that had barely been fenced in, had dangerous metal, had this, that all over, just severely overgrown. So I've just been taking it one day at a time, 1 week at a time, one class at a time, repairing it and bringing it to what I would see as a glorious garden. I mean, we've gone from no shells, no pathways, no bricks, no vegetables, no flowers, no perennials, nothing, basically, but flat earth and dead garden beds to now I've got a thriving garden where I'm growing lemongrass. I'm showing recycling without turning into mulch. I've got giant milkweed. I've got cranberry hibiscus the kindergartners love to eat. I've got buttonwoods that were donated to me from a science fair experiment that one of my kids did for water and drought drainage retention to put along our new drainage channel we have here that we learned about when we went to the IFAS. presentation. They said, look, here's a great way to make a meandering water runoff area so your water waters your plants. It takes your storm water away. And just all kinds of things. And everything just keeps getting adapted. I pick a project, we start working on it. Like this week, I'm digging the drainage ditches that are not drainage ditches. I'm sorry. I'm digging the ditches for the irrigation channels. I've got half of that done with the kids already for the 15 trees we're putting in. And the kids are doing it. Like I've got pictures of them doing it. They're working. They're doing it. Whatever our project is, that's what we focus on. And then a lot of times with my littles too, they're not able to use the tools. I really don't start with the tool safety until second grade. And then at the second grade level, they're learning all the safety. I teach them, head of the tool to the ground, walking with the tools, not running. I do demonstrations on all the tools at the beginning of the year. I quiz them on it to make sure that they're listening and paying attention. And then they go out and they use them. And I say, all right, your job is raking this leaf section today. You guys are going to work with me on making soil. We're going to fill the seed trays for the kindergartners, because my kinders in first grade, they really need something very simple. So they're mostly like watering and picking weeds and identifying plants, looking for bugs. I'll have coconut fiber seed trays. I love doing that with them because it's really simple. I did that yesterday when we were planting pumpkins for the next week with them. We're making stuff for our fall festival. So those kids are, even though they're only kindergartners, they're going to generate plants for me by planting seeds this week that I'm going to sell next week for tickets at our fall festival, create a little bit of income money for us so we can buy more seeds, more tools, etc. So like I'm trying to always constantly think, what do I need? How do I make the project for the kids? How do I do 3 or 4 things all at once? And then on top of that, there's grants that are coming in from all over the place. I have Green Jeans working with me. I have University of Florida working with me. I've got Embracing Our Differences, which is a unity program here within the district where they want to try and find people from all different walk styles and files and put them together and show how we can be peaceful and kind with each other and, just really teach, unity rather than division. So in my garden area, we've been creating what's called a Peace Path. So each year, my first graders, they paint Peace Path tiles. And they have a full lesson with one of my really good teacher friends that's a collaborator with me. She does the intro lesson about peace and unity, what it is, what it means, some of the symbolism behind it. And she talks to kids. She does kind of the language arts side of it. Then they come to my class. We do a sketch one week. And we sketches out, paint them on the tiles. Then my 4th and 5th graders, they set the path up, they lay the weed matting, and the 3rd and 4th graders start helping me lay the tiles. We lay them down, we set them in, we've been creating places around the campus. So, there's so much we do with integration. It's all levels. Maybe my first grader can't do this, or maybe my ASD student doesn't like this, or my AIM student, or my ESOL or ESC. It doesn't matter what they are or where they are. I'm bringing everybody here. I find something for them to do to connect with us somehow. I mean, maybe they don't do all the jobs, but they'll always have something to do here, and they're always included and welcome. So that's just kind of like the motive and the vibe I go for. I probably talked too long now, but next question.
No, I'm just trying to gather that all in. I wish you were a teacher at my school.
That's what I said. I said he just inspires people.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to hit. I try and keep this upbeat personality, but let me tell you, at the end of the day, it's a long day. Mr. O goes home and is tired. There's still more to do. But it's definitely a challenge. But I think one of the things also that inspired me to be like that and always like positive and trying to be upbeat with the kids here at school is that I've got teachers here that were students with Miss Herzog 10, 15 years ago. They still remember Miss Herzog. They still have that plant today. They say, yeah, I remember when Miss Herzog was here. I've still got blah, blah, blah plant from that class. I'm like, see, and that was impactful. That person now has a plant. They care about plants. They want to teach the next generation of kids because of the person that sat here in this job. If we don't have that kind of person here, we don't have that kind of carry on. Agriculture dies, food supply dies. People don't understand. They don't care. They buy stuff out of a box and they don't know the difference between whole wheat flour and enriched wheat flour. And I can't stand that. I had to teach my daughter yesterday. It's another side story. We talk about growing things and growth. I look at enriched wheat as in everything. Stop enriching my wheat. I want wheat, period. Like there's such a upgrowing now of like sourdough and people making their homemade breads. I go on Facebook now because I told my daughter, I said, look, we're going to eat healthier. I've been on kind of a health kick lately where we're trying to improve our diet and eat more whole foods and things and try and, use what we do in the garden. So, Like yesterday again, I don't want enriched wheat. I don't want crazy potatoes out of a box. My kids were digging up sweet potatoes. So you know what I did? I went home. I made Japanese sweet potato chips. I'm bringing them back for them to try today. I made Japanese mashed sweet potatoes for my daughter to test last night at dinner. I said, okay, this is a recipe. I want to know because I'm going to make it in class. What do you think? I use milk. I use grass-fed butter imported from Ireland. I'm trying to do everything like that and bring that to my classroom. So it's just, that's what they have to do and see. They have to feel it. They have to know it, taste it, touch it. In third grade, they want to always do a literacy week. I got a special lesson for that one. It's called Stone Soup. So Stone Soup is a whole lesson. It's a Japanese and Asian cultural story where they go to the town and they're outsiders that come in and they want to have a thing and nobody wants to come out and greet them. It's a very closed off town. They don't like outsiders, etc. So these three monks go in, they set up a pot and a stove and they start cooking. Everybody starts coming out one by one to see what's going on. And each person brings in something as the story goes along and adds to the pot. Well, I read the story in the class and I say, all right, guys, let's just taste it now, make it. We're going to go do it ourselves. So I send the kids out. I give them a task. I say, you're going to garden bed 1, you're collecting chives. You're going to garden bed 3, collecting sweet potatoes. You go get cilantro. You go get carrots. You go get this and so on. And then I do a mini lesson about a different kind of wheat back to the ramen noodles. What kind of noodles are we using? Is it good for us? Where did it come from? And then I'll say, okay, well, we had to bring some things from elsewhere. I'm going to get you some noodles that came from Taiwan today, and these ones were classically made, or maybe we get an Italian one. So, okay, these noodles were made with just semolina wheat, period, nothing else to it, and egg, and then we cook it, and they wash, they come up, they walk in, they put it in the pot. We turn the pot on, we watch the pot boil, we smell the pot, we season it, we go to the herbs and stuff. It's just such an amazing experience to be able to do that with the kids. It's home ec, it's science, it's literature, it's math and measuring. I say, hey, you go grab me a cup of that. They're like, Mr. O, what's a cup? Like, oh my goodness, you guys haven't taught a cup. All right, let's back up. I teach them what a cup is. I take out the measuring cup. Here's the cup. Here's how to measure it. This is what a teacher needs to be. It needs to be real life. Let it hit them. Let them critical think. Let them solve problems. Let them feel agriculture. Touch it, taste it, smell it. It's got to be the way we are. And a lot of my teachers here, they love it. They see how much the kids are loving me and what I'm doing. I'm not straight laced. I won't admit this loudly, but we may have to get to this part later. So I don't write my learning intentions on the board. I talk to my children. I teach them. When the administrator comes in, sure, I'll click the slide. It pops up on the board. That's what I'm doing for today. But you know what? Ask my kids a question about what we're learning. Don't ask them what the learning intention is. Ask them what they learned. Ask them about Stone Soup. They'll tell you, oh, this was a story about we all had to share. We had to get together. We got the stuff we grew with Mr. O. We put it in the pot to eat it later. They know. Then ask them, well, did you learn anything else? Oh, yeah, Mr. O taught us how to do a cup today. We learned how to measure a cup. I taught them 5 science standards and 2 ELA standards and a math standard in less than a half an hour because they cared, they were invested, they were motivated. And that is the thing. We try and make everything dry and cut and establish why we do a thing in education, and then we pull it all out to cookie cutter replicate it. And it's not about the cookie cutter or the replication. It's about the people behind the lesson. You're not amazing there behind it. You're not empowered. You're not touching your students. You're not building relationships. They go off the wall. I can tell you, I probably don't write more than 20 referrals in an entire year, and I have 999 students plus. So that'll tell you something about my classroom management. I tell them, hey, look, this is how it's going to be. I talk to them. I teach them respect. I teach them behavior. So don't do that. I let them fail. They have to fail. That's the biggest problem, I think, in education these days. I know that was one of your questions. What's the big problem in education? We don't let kids fail. We tell them, that's no good. You can't fail. Nah, you got to fail. If you don't fail, you don't learn. What'd you learn? You learn how to copy what I told you. You don't learn how to grow. You don't learn that, hey, I can go to the library and do this. I can go to the media website and do this. I can learn this. Like, prime example today, I couldn't get on the video chat right away, but I had critical thinking skills where I said, all right, I'm going to solve this. I'm going to try this. Ms. Palmer called me. I got that call. I do that. I check 3 different browsers. I update my phone. Then she reminded me, oh, yeah, I forgot. I didn't take the Wi-Fi off my phone, so it's on school Wi-Fi behind a firewall. All these great things. It's a critical thinking skill, and be able to have them and apply it to nature and my garden. I'm giving them the basics, and they're going to run with it from there. That's the goal.
Yeah.
So I need to take a breath. So
Yeah, take a breath. We talk to a lot of teachers, all over the place, and I don't know if I've spoke to one that you get it. That's the thing that
Yeah.
I would say about what I take from you just said, that you get how people learn, and
Right.
that's amazing to me. And you're
I,
not that you just get it, because I kind of feel the same way, maybe not as invested as you, but you're applying it. That's what's amazing. People who understand it can understand it, but they seldom apply it in the way you're applying it. That's very impressive.
Mhm. And like every teacher, I have to always try and not be complacent too. I know that there's standards out there, and that's to like drive us back to the cause. So like when they do our standardized tests and things like that, I look at that data and I take it and I say, wow, okay, why did they not get this? Because I know I've taught it. I know it's here. I know they've got the experience of it. Where did it miss? Q, where did it go wrong? And that's usually when I look back and I look at the way things are asked too. So then I change the way I ask the questions of the kids. Like if they're asking it with a different vocabulary word, for example, then I start using that word instead when I talk, and I make it my practice to say that way. So if like they're saying soil, and I've always been saying coconut fiber, go get us some coconut soil. They're not thinking, okay, soil's made with coconuts. So they don't see coconut in a test. They don't get the word. They're wondering, why is that? Or, they don't know the difference between a scuffle hoe and a regular hoe. So they've heard the word hoe, and then they use, oh, that's for making a garden row for seeds and digging. And then really my test question says, no, it has that wrong answer. That's a right answer for a similar tool. So I'm looking at, well, all right, well, I've got to talk to them better about it. I've got to teach it better. And you're just always looking back at it and never just accepting what's there. It's a difficult thing, because I like to get in my role of way I do things, and that's how we do it. And then I forget, what, sometimes I need to go back and think about it and change, because tests are changing all the time, and so are the way kids are learning. So it's being adaptable too is a big key. And I also think that me being an alternative teacher makes a big difference too. I am not a standard teacher that went to school and said, hey, I'm going to be a teacher. Let me take all the teacher courses. No, I went to school to be a biologist. I was originally going to be a DEC officer in New York State. That was my goal, because I wanted to talk to people out there, see how hunting was going, and conserve hunting and fishing, because my grandfather was a big impact on me when I was little. Again, in hunting and fishing, took me fishing all the time. He was always going hunting. I saw that. I saw the use of it and his love for it. And he lived in the middle of the city. So, I wanted to, make sure that stayed on. It was a tradition, was carried on, because, he really impressed that upon me. And it's just, I want to keep that carried on with our kids. And the way to do it is to be adaptive to the education, show them what they are. So the kids that have an apartment, we keep a square half acre here for gardening, so they can still see what happens every year. Because, you can read about, the pumpkin patch and the great pumpkin story for Halloween, and do all those great things, dress up, do the candy, do the history of the holiday. But if you've never touched a pumpkin, what good is it? You don't know what the seed tastes like. You're not going to love roasted pumpkins. Why do I care? Oh, great. That's a nice story. I'll move on with my life. I'm going to play my video game, back to Mario World, and you really have to, that connection. It's just so powerful.
Well, and it's excellent that there's some things you have to practice, right? You got to practice math to get good at math. You got to practice reading to get good at reading. But to have an a break, right? A break to do the other side of your brain, right? The earthly
right.
Great to hear.
It's not a break from my class. It's the doing of it for a purpose. I think that's kind of the point I'm getting at, is you have to want to learn for a purpose. Many people, like, they see, well, why am I learning this? What is the point? Like, and I always see, and I'll go back to that calculator adage. My teacher, and I'm going to date myself, used to say, you'll never have a calculator in your hand. You have to know how to do this by hand. I never agree with that anymore. Yes, I should know how to do it by hand, but you know what? I got a computer that's also now a phone, a video, and a news broadcast, and I'm talking to you across the internet 100 miles away. I can do that math right now on my phone if I know the process. So it's kind of like, you've ever seen that old cartoon ads where they've got a fish in a bowl, they've got a donkey, a bird, and a horse, and there's one guy at a desk saying, okay, I'm now going to test you, and you get the job based on who can climb the tree the best. Well, the fishbowl ain't never climbing a tree. The best guy's going to be the monkey. He's going to be the fastest. The elephant weighs too much. He's going to break the tree. So they got to come up with a better way to do things. It's not one shoe fits all anymore, but there's got to be one way to teach all. So that's kind of what I'm doing. I let the experience happen, and I let them do what they can do. I let them gain from that, so they get the math here. They practice the math for a purpose. When they come out in my garden bed, they got to measure 6 inches across for each seed, then plant. They got to measure the next row is 4 inches over. Seeds are spaced 6 apart, or 12 inches. And I say, all right, well, I don't have an inch ruler. I only got a metric meter stick. How do we do that? Well, I don't know. How many inches? Well, I don't know. I said, what can we do? Oh, does Mr. O have his phone today? Yeah, I do. Let's Google it. How many inches in a meter? And then we do the math. I said, all right, well, if there's this many in a meter, how many do we do? Okay, now we use our meter stick. Where is it? How many centimeters, guys? 6 inches was 70 centimeters, and we just keep going with it. And that's the math every day. It's not math because I have to learn math. It's math because I need to use it. Okay? It's a use it or lose it kind of mentality. If you don't use it, why bother? Okay, we can specialize in lots of different things. So it teaches them why pay attention in class when Mr. Magoo is teaching you math. Why pay attention in science when Ms. Frizzle is having a conversation about outer space. This is why, because those things can affect what we do and how we live. So understanding is power.
It is. And bringing the understanding to the kids about where their food comes from, it just blows my mind.
Yeah, and that's such an easy thing to do nowadays. I mean, everything's got 9 million ingredients that I can't pronounce anymore. Why? Is it really better for all those ingredients or no? There's a lot of debate about that now. What's good and what's unhealthy, what's healthy. And I with this journey that I've been on with my son and my wife, we've been, losing a lot of weight and trying to eat better and holistically as best we can, because we always hear that song, all the food is poison, and there is to some extent in everything. If you look at it now, we've just degraded our country so much. So we've got to get back to good sustainable practices. I see a lot now in the world about permaculture and how do we keep things permanent and healthy and fit and not be using additives. So like I go down Starbucks, they got that grounds for your garden. I put more coffee grounds in my garden from Starbucks than anybody. I go every week, sometimes 2 and 3 times a week to do that as an added fertilizer. I teach kids how it's an acidic fertilizer. It's natural. I use, instead of peanuts here, because we got peanut allergies, I can't have that. I have something that's non-allergic. I use those Japanese sweet potatoes. They rotate through my beds to put nitrogen back in the soil. So the next year I can put popcorn on top of it. I can take it out with the popcorn. Then I teach them 3 sisters the following year. I'll throw in corn, squash, beans. I got teachers that are teaching it now because they saw me do the teepee last year in front. They're like, oh, I can do that. That's an idea, Mr. O. Yes, take it, run with it. I don't care. Steal my idea. I'll find another one. And it's just that's the beauty of it. I'm kind of developing lessons and things for the kids to do here. My marigolds are great. I can't tell you how many marigold seeds I get a year. And one of the kindergarten standards is to sort and separate things by characteristics. Great. Here's the garbage part of the marigold flower. Here's the good part of the marigold flower. Put the garbage here, the good part here. I'm going to put the seeds in a plastic bag, save them, put them in the fridge for next year. Plant them and away we go. So all those little things, that's now a lesson that I can take here. I'll grow the marigolds and I can give those to the kindergarten teachers. Like, here's a 5-minute science lesson. Beat your standard to a pulp. Your kids will get it. They'll sort stuff. Go. Now it's not just me doing it, it's me sharing it. The other thing I do, anytime a staff member comes by and like, oh, that's this. So they start talking about plants. I'm like, oh, do you have any cranberry hibiscus? It's like, no. I'm like, good. Here, you have one now. I said, my only request is that if ever my garden fails, you bring me back a cutting. If there's a hurricane, if there's a drought, and my plants die and your plant lives, we share. You give me back the cranberry, so I keep my kindergartens eating cranberry hibiscus leaves. That's the first thing they taste and smell and touch in my garden. Kindergartners learn to eat cranberry hibiscus. And now I have to stop them from ripping leaves off and eating it. It's great. They want, Mr. O, can I have a red leaf? Mr. O, can I have a cranberry leaf? And it's just that is the beauty of being out here. I keep trying to find more edible things. The more I can do, the more I can share, the more they learn, the more they love it. I try and give them take-home things like we'll make cuttings with basil. I make cuttings with pothos. Pothos is a quick, simple, easy one. Everybody says, oh, pothos is toxic. I look at my apps. It's the most toxic thing. Can't touch it. I'll tell you what, I've been touching it for 25 years. I've never had an itchy hand yet. I've rubbed the sap all over me. I cut it through weeds where there's ivy and all sorts of other things. Never have a problem with it. If you don't eat it in 800 pounds, it's not toxic. It just isn't. That's been my experience. So I don't just lead with the internet. And I tell kids about that. I said, look, we can experiment safely with things. Like, I know if something's, boy, it's itchy, I know about it. Okay. I'm going to teach you about the ones that I know, but we could find that out. We have a lot of that problem with like invasives. Like I've got Brazilian pepper tree, and I tell them 9 out of 10 kids aren't allergic to Brazilian pepper tree, but there's that one kid that is. I said, and when you do, you're going to know it's going to feel like poison ivy. You're going to, oh, I got poison ivy in the garden. No, you didn't get poison ivy. You got Brazilian pepper tree, an invader. So that's why we learn about invasive species, keeping Florida, how do we maintain it intact? Just again, more and more things. Right now, with that, speaking of taste and touch, Green Jeans has been helping me with making a sensory garden out of our old bird observatory garden that we had here. It was a natural garden, and then we've turned that with the help of them and the PTO. They're painting now. We're making a sensory zone, so it's got hopscotch, it's got caterpillars with letters and numbers. It's going to have a drive pathway that they're making, and we've got plant beds that do the 5 senses. So it's going to have a taste, touch, smell, sight, everything there. So we've got all those things going on, and I've labeled them, painted them, and I started planting. There's stuff there. I've taken the stuff I already got. I took a cranberry plant. First thing I put in, you're going to eat that. They're going to love it. I put them basil over there. They're going to eat that, smell it, taste it, love it. I can put that in 2 boxes. It's okay. Taste it, smell it, love it. Take it home. But I'm not going to put my sweet potato in there because it's a nightshade. I don't want to look at and see that. I know that. These kids are different. They're the ones that are just going to grab and touch everything. So everything they touch, I want to be safe. So the touch one I did, they all always want to poke. I've got a little rubber cactus plant. Fabulous plant. It looks like it's really pokey and a dangerous cactus, but it's all rubber. So they can touch something finally that looks pokey. And they learn, do all things do that? No. And they have a conversation with the kids. We ask before we touch. And then it lets them know if I see something pointy, I ask if it's safe before I touch. And just being able to do that and go through the process with them with a safer plant species, making a difference. Just all those things. There's so many ideas. I got more ideas than I have time to do with here. I need like 50 more people to work with me and volunteer and help out my garden. I keep trying each year. I've got some master gardeners from University of Florida. I got a new lady this past week from New Jersey. She comes down just for snowbird season. She's wonderful. She loves a garden. She's like, I want to garden all year round. So I don't want to teach kids. I don't want to really work with kids, but I want them to have the experience, and I want to help do the work. It's fantastic. I don't care if you talk to a single kid while you're here. Eventually, you're probably going to love it because some of my kids are really awesome. But she's helping me. That's 5 more seconds of hands. That something I can do that I can't now. I've got all the other things where they can now work here and they can have them planting seeds. I got one aide, Miss Perlman. She's probably, I think she's 73 now, and she can't walk around very good, but she loves to be out here, loves to see the kids in the garden, wants to help them. So those kids are then seeing her at her age and saying, wow, she's still gardening at this age. That's really cool. Grandma's out here in the garden with us. And then we've also got where yesterday she sat there and said she managed the seeds for me. I said, all right, I'll get the kids lined up. I'll hand the seeds out to them so that they're ready to go. You point them where they go, because my kindergartners, they will plant 80 seeds in one spot. And they're a blessing, but man, I don't need 80 seeds in one part of my tray, and the whole rest of the tray isn't usable for my fall festival. So that's one of the cool things I do. And you hear my kids are starting to arrive now. They're all, hi, Mr. O'Gorman, and getting ready. They're lining up. They know what they're supposed to do. They're already going to level 0. Teachers got them in the line for me. So I've got like about 2 minutes, and then I'm going to have to leave. So I just wanted to let you know. Is there anything else you'd like me to do for wrapping up, or no?
Just if you have a quick final thought that you want to leave the listeners with, this is your chance to let them know.
To me, I've always kind of led more with my heart, and I kind of steer a little bit farther from the rules. The rules are there for me as guidelines. I'll walk real close to the line because I want to do the right thing. And sometimes the right thing is not what the rule says. Sometimes we lead a little bit more with our heart instead of always with our head. And know that they're children, and they have to learn to fail to be successful. If you don't know how to fail when you do it in life, you'll fail and never move on. You'll be stuck. So teach with failure. Let kids fail and then lift them up when they fall. And do it with heart and let them learn through the outside world and appreciate our environment. Can't ask more than that. Let them fail, let them live, help them learn. That's my thoughts.
Thank you. And that's about all we have for the show this week. Thanks for watching.
And thanks for listening to Modern Farming, and be sure to follow us and join us again as we grow in the knowledge of the world that feeds us.